Greetings and welcome to Let's Talk About Books, baby, where we talk with your favorite LGBTQ plus author. I'm Anita Kelly, and my guest today is Suzie Clarke. Well, hello again, Suzie.
Hi, Anita. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Really good.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Awesome. But yeah, life is beautiful in your neck of the woods right now.
It is. It's really pretty. It was beautiful, warm, and now all of a sudden now it's cold. So we're definitely in fall now.
Yeah, we are. But I refuse to turn the heat on yet.
We had to turn ours on a couple days ago. So
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bummer. So, well, listen, Suzie. First off, congratulations on your Goldie win for Enigma.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
That is awesome. And, especially you got into the top, you got the top prize in the romantic blend category.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by that?
Oh my gosh. I was so surprised. When they read, there was 3 awards given in that category because it was so large. And mine was the last name read. And I thought, I just barely made it by the skin of my teeth. But then when they were calling the highest points, they awarded that $1,000 prize, and they said Enigma. I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. It was so great.
Oh, that is so awesome. That was a new thing, total new thing.
Yeah, it
too.
was. This year was the first year for it. Yeah.
Yeah, first year for a monetary prize. And for you listeners, we're talking about the Golden Crown Literary Society Awards, which are held annually, and each year it's a traveling award show. Each year the conference is in a different city, and this year Suzie's book Enigma won in the romantic blend category, and this year was the first year they gave out a monetary prize for the book who received the most points, and Suzie won that as well. So
yeah, it was quite a surprise. It was a great honor. It really was. I was just so thrilled to get it.
That is awesome. That's really awesome. So I know that you couldn't be at the conference because of your injury. So what do you think? Are you going to go next year?
I absolutely am planning to go next year. I've just because I wanted so bad to go this year, and I just couldn't do it. Not walking on a cane and everything. I was going through the pain and everything. So I was so disappointed. But I did get to see it when they broadcast it. They broadcast it live during the live events, and my friend and I got online and we were able to do the live broadcast. So that was, at least I got to see it and see everything. So,
oh, that's so awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I was gripping my armchair and trying not to strain my knee when they came to the categories. So.
I hope you didn't get up and hoop and holler.
I wanted to. I really did. I raised my hands in triumph, but that's about the only thing. I put my cane down and raised my hands in triumph, but that was about the only thing I was able to do.
Well, hopefully next year you will be all healed up and you'll be running through the halls.
Well, I know about running, but I'll go at a good pace.
All right. And where is the conference next year?
In Minneapolis, I believe it is.
Minnesota. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there this coming year.
Oh, awesome. Good. Well, hope you do as well as you did this year. Thank
you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm very excited about Western Blue.
Yeah, so that is your newest book. Let's talk about that. That was just released, right?
Right, it just came out this month.
This month, okay. So it was it's another romantic blend, but it's set like way back in the Old West days, right?
Yes. 1868.
Okay, and it's set in Nevada. Is that correct?
Near Carson City, Nevada. Yep.
Okay. And whereas Enigma was back in 1941, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was set here in the United States, 1941, right, days before Pearl Harbor.
Okay. All right. And so so tell us about Western Blue first of all. Um,
Okay. Well, Western Blue is a Western set in, like we said, 1868 in Carson City, right outside of Carson City, Nevada. It's a story of Blue, Caroline Bluebonnet Hutchings. We call her Blue. Her dad called her Blue, and the name stuck, and that's why she goes by Blue. She doesn't like to be called Caroline. So they call her Blue, and so it's her struggle. Her and her friend travel from Texas to Nevada and settle in a ranch that she has been able to get from her father. Her stepbrother has cheated her out of her dad's ranch, which was very expensive, lots of acreage, lots of cattle. She got cheated out of it and got nothing but this rundown ranch that she's never seen,
oh,
but she has it. So that's where she goes because she has absolutely nowhere else to go.
oh,
And it's a story of her and her struggle to make the go of this ranch and fighting everything else that she has to do to survive. And she, one of the main characters, the male characters, does not want, he's actually, I can't give away too much, but he doesn't want her there. Let's just put it that way.
okay.
And so he makes sure that none of the area ranchers or cowboys work for her when she needs help. So in desperation,
Mm-hmm.
she turns to women
Nice.
and she hires women to come as ranch hands. And it's a story of her and these women and what happened to them.
Wow, what a great story. It kind of
I
reminds me of Rosie the Riveter, right?
yeah, I had such fun writing this book. I just love writing it. It was so
Wow.
fun. When the
And
characters started to come to life, it was just so fun to write them.
so did you have to do a lot of research for this story?
You know, I did. You know, I wasn't gonna. My husband is from the West. Actually, he's from Nevada,
Okay.
and I've been there many, many times in the area. I know the area well.
Uh-huh.
But yes, it seemed like every time I turned around, I had to look something up. For example, what a wagon looked like. How was it put together? And if it was going to break down, where was most likely would it break down? Because their wagon did break down.
Okay.
And just everyday things that
Mm-hmm.
canning jars. Her
Mm-hmm.
friend Martha, who rode with her, who ended up going with her because her husband was killed in
Mm-hmm.
a poker game. He was cheating, and he
Oh.
had gambled all their store away. They had a dry goods store, and he had gambled it away, and so she was left with nothing also, and that's why she went with Blue. But just what canning jars? What kind of canning jars? How did they can back then? Did they can back then? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so just little things, and
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it just seemed like every time I turned, horses and horse rigging and, everything that's connected with a ranch that you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of research. Like if you didn't grow up on a ranch and don't know about all those things, then yeah,
Yeah.
I can
And
imagine.
I had a horse when I was younger and rode.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's cousin
Mm-hmm.
is a national grand champion for cutting horses.
Oh
So
wow.
I haven't got to talk with her yet about the next story, but she's a great. John's whole family was great resources for me because they were, they came west generations ago, and so they were a great resource for me. But it just was amazing how much research you have to do
Uh-huh.
to make sure you get it right. I know you and I have talked before about making sure that I want my stories to be authentic and genuine,
Yeah.
and research is absolutely a critical part of that.
Yeah, because if you you know, say the wagon broke down and talked about how Blue was going to repair it and say misspoke about something, someone will call you out on that
Oh
and
yeah,
then and
yeah.
and then really it might taint them, right?
Hmm.
And so you do want to be authentic and do your best to tell an authentic and true story, true to the era, I should say.
Well, I'm right. True to the era, and this they evidently, when I picked the time, I had a little trouble picking the time that I wanted to go back to, because I didn't want to be involved a lot with settling the territory as far as wilderness and Indians, and I just didn't want to deal with that, because I wanted to be sensitive to them, and I didn't want to write a story that maybe offend the American Indians or anything like that, or Native Americans. So I wanted to be real careful with that. And of course, Isabel is Hispanic or Mexican. So I had to be careful with that and do a lot of research with that.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of sensitive things that I had to be careful with, but I'm just so pleased with the way it turned out, and everything that happened to them, and the way that the story unfolded, really, when I started writing it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and the time frame, 1868, is right after the Civil War ended.
Yes, yes. And one of the reasons why I chose that time period was I didn't want to deal with the Civil War.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much pre-Civil War. And there was a lot, of course, after, where there was a lot of settlement and a lot of things going on after. But it was better to deal with after the Civil War.
Yeah.
And in the book, there's some things that happen that the generation that's coming next is affected by the Civil War, but not in the sense that those who actually fought it. But a lot of them have lost their parents, their fathers, their aunt, their uncles, their brothers.
Yeah. 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 I can see that would add a whole new dimension to it if you included that wartime.
Yeah. So it's after the Civil War, slightly after. But yeah.
So, Blue and Isabel and her friend Martha, they move. Where do they move from?
They moved from Texas.
Okay.
Blue's family, she was raised in Texas. Her dad had the ranch in Texas. And then when her father died and her stepbrother came in and just took over everything, she was essentially kicked out.
Okay.
And she discovered through her dad's friend worked at the bank, and he had a deed that her father had given him for her. And that's how she ended up going to Nevada, and why she ended up there.
Okay. And you said that Isabel is Mexican, so she's from Texas, and is that Blue's lover or paramour?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
That ends up being her love interest. Yep.
Okay. And then Martha is her bud, her best friend.
Yeah, Martha is about 10 years older than Blue, and she was friends with her as she grew up. She owned the dry goods store there in Texas, where they're from. And because Martha ended up she lost everything because of her husband. She decided to go west Blue invited her to go, and she decided, yes, she'd go. So she packed up everything and went with her too.
Nice. Awesome. So there are quite a few female characters in this book then, if you have ranch hands, right? So who are the ranch hands we encounter?
All right, so I'm going to try to do it in order. I'll just give you the order if I can.
Okay.
All right, so the first one to encounter is Etta. Her name is Henrietta, but she likes to be called Etta.
Okay.
And, after Blue finds out that this Frank Anderson has absolutely adamant that no one will work for her, she can't get anybody. So in desperation, she advertises for women. And the first one to show up, Iz is there with her, and Martha, but the first actual hand to show up is a woman named Etta. And she is a prostitute at the local whorehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to get out. And she doesn't know what to do, so she shows up at Blue's ranch.
Cool.
And asks for a job.
Awesome.
So she's the first one.
Okay. Yep.
And then the next one to come is a young woman named, and the next one to come is a young woman named Gertie.
Okay.
And she is from over near Lake Tahoe. Okay. And she's been on her own, and she shows up.
Okay.
She's only 11 years old.
Oh, my.
And I think of all the characters, the ranch hands, I think Gertie is my favorite.
Oh.
She's just quite the character. She's just all spit and polish. She's something.
All right.
And, then we have three other women that come. I won't give you a lot of detail. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it for everybody because it's fun just to read and get to meet these women and where they're from and what they do and
Mm-hmm.
how they got there and why they came to work for Blue, why they came for a job. So, but there's three other ones, and they're just women. They're women who are in a desperate situation. They're all just as desperate as Blue is,
Mm-hmm.
and they all kind of end up together and try to make a life together. So
Great. Wow. So
really
with
this.
with all of these female characters, like it sounds like they all have some significant parts. Um
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
it hard to write so many female characters and kind of keep them, keep their stories with the character and how was that?
Well, actually, um, you know, I'm the type of writer who wants to have an outline before I start. And I only do that because I want to know where I'm going. And
Mhm.
it's a loose outline and it's very broad, but at least it gives me the direction that I need. And of course, if my story goes in a different direction, then I'm open to that as
Okay.
long as it's, taking it where I feel it needs to go. But I had originally thought there would be I mean, I originally said in my story, in the outline of the story, that there would be women come to work for her because no men will work for her.
Mhm.
But I didn't know all the characters yet. I just knew that there'd be some. I
Okay.
knew a couple. I knew that there was going to be the prostitute, and one is a school teacher. And the other ones, I didn't really know how they were going to come about. So when they started to develop, it became real clear what their weaknesses and their strengths were, what their attributes were going to be. And one of the things that writers need to do, we all need to do it, and that is if you're going to have a character, make them memorable.
Mhm.
Don't just throw somebody in there as a filler because it's wasting the reader's time,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. I wanted each one of them to be absolutely essential to the story.
Mhm.
And so sometimes I give them flaws. I didn't know what flaw this, for example, Abigail, when she comes to the ranch to apply, um, she wasn't, when I had originally wrote her in, she wasn't, through the story, she doesn't have a lot of action. She doesn't have a lot of interaction. And
Mhm.
I thought, she wasn't memorable. I mean, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. She was
I thought,
just
what can I do?
backdrop.
Yeah, yeah. So I kept thinking about it all through as I was writing. I kept thinking, she's got to have something. She's got to have something more. And we ended up I ended up with her having a burn. She's horribly scarred from a fire.
Okay.
And you know it. You remember that. I mean,
Yeah.
she becomes this courageous woman who's horribly scarred and disfigured, who, just has to go on with her life like that.
Mhm.
So
So
yes, that's just one example of it.
so you originally like wrote Abigail into the story and then decided that she wasn't colorful enough, so then you went back and
Hmm.
kind of rewrote
Yeah. Yeah. I
her
rewrote
story.
some of her scenes so she'd have these physical attributes, these physical descriptions so that she would be more memorable to the reader. So she'd be more interesting. She'd have more depth.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That took a lot of time, I'll bet, just to
Well, that's just part of developing, to part of developing your story and making sure as a writer that you've got a story that a reader, when they pick it up, they pick the story, they can't put it down.
yeah.
That's always been my goal, to just take them on that ride where they cannot stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. That really is. So how did you decide like overall for all of your characters then like what were their weaknesses and flaws? Like how did that come about for the rest of
well,
them?
oh, that's a great question. You have in your mind, when you start a story, you have in your mind your characters, most of them,
Mhm.
or at least a good part of them. And
Mhm.
you have something in mind of what you want with them. But I have found over the years that as you write your stories, those characters take on a persona all themselves. Once you get that character, you start developing that character. Like with I'll use Abigail as another, again, as an example. I didn't know what to do, but the way that she appeared on the ranch and the way that she was interacting with Blue,
Mm-hmm.
it was obvious that she was someone that cared very deeply about people. I thought, now how can I build on that? And obviously, I won't tell you how she got burnt because that's part of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but it comes through in her personality. It makes sense that that's what happened to her
Oh, cool.
because of the incident that she was in.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so, when you try to develop your characters, you just kind of, for me, I just kind of open my mind and try to picture them as a real person and look at them and say, okay, what do you see in that character? What's their weaknesses? What's their strengths?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it relates also to what is their function in the storyline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's their development in the story? How much interaction do they have with the main characters?
Mm-hmm.
Secondary, it's really interesting about secondary characters because they have to be memorable,
Mm-hmm.
or there's no point in putting them in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they can't overtake the main characters. They're there for a purpose,
Yeah.
and that is to move the main characters forward and to enhance the story. So you have to be really careful to not let them overpower the storyline or the main characters.
Yeah, that's a delicate balance, I'll bet.
Yeah, it really is. And I found it was a pretty big challenge this time because I have so many female characters in the story.
Yeah.
But yet we have two main characters, which is Blue and Izza.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want even Martha. I had to be careful not to let Martha overtake the story.
Yeah, she could be a main character also.
Yeah, she plays a big role. She's like the mother of all the ranch hands. She's there and mothers them, and they all want to be mothered, and so she's there to kind of help them.
Oh, that's great. Boy, this sounds like an awesome story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I really am. I feel like it's my best work.
Really?
I do.
Even
I really do.
even after Enigma.
Yeah. Enigma. Enigma. It was special in its own way. I loved. I grew up in the period after World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved looking back. You glamorize it and everything.
Yeah.
And I loved the characters. I loved. One of my favorite parts of Enigma was when they went to the Glenn Miller concert.
Oh.
All met at the Glenn,
Yeah.
to Glenn Miller and danced to the Glenn Miller music, and then of course the Andrews sisters came.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite parts.
Oh.
Enigma has its own nuance, I guess. But Western Blue, I love westerns, and I know you and I both have talked before that you love westerns too. And
Mm-hmm.
I know I've said before that Larry McMurtry
Mm-hmm.
was the author of Lonesome Dove. It was my favorite western, and I always said I wanted to write a western, and I think it took all that experience of those first 4 books until I was ready to write Western Blue.
Cool.
It's just it's different than Enigma. It really is. It's just a different story, but for me it's such a fun story.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds it like I can tell in your voice. You're like super excited about it.
I am. I really am. I'm very excited about this book.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm just looking at my Kindle to see. I'm pretty sure I have it. Just checking it.
While you're looking at what I'm most excited about is for the readers to read this story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm really hoping that they will really, really enjoy this story. I know my editor made a comment to me after she was done editing, and I thought it was so kind of her to say it. She says, "I laughed, I cried, I cussed. You can't ask for more than that."
Oh, that's awesome. Yep, that's true. You cannot. That's perfect. That is perfect.
She made me feel really good that she had made those comments about it. So
Yeah. So, like, was it different to switch from like a post World War, setting to a Western setting?
yeah, it was really different. But you take away all modern things and you step back in time.
Yeah.
And I have gained such an appreciation for the women that were settling the West and the things that they had to go through. There's a comment in this storyline. Blue and Iz are together and they're talking. Of course, they're on horseback and they're talking. Mm-hmm. And Blue's showing her ranch, and she's having some concerns. She said, "This land," I forget exactly what she says, but she says this land will make you old. And she says, "I'll be lucky if I live to be 40." And it was true. I mean, they had a hard life, and it weathered them quickly.
Oh, sure.
And, they weren't young for very long.
No, not at all. No, you are so right about that. It took the life right out of them.
It did. It literally sucked the life out of them because they worked up. Blue says to Izzy, she invites her to stay with them, and she says, "We'll work from sun up to sundown, but you'll have a place to stay, food to eat, and friends." Yeah. And she wasn't kidding. Yeah. They worked from sun up to sundown, and they were absolutely exhausted every day.
Yeah. Hey, you had to be exhausted to sleep on, the kind of beds they slept on.
That should even sleep, right?
Yeah, right? Oh, yes, yes.
I don't care if it's a stone I'm laying my head on, just let me sleep. But it was, I just have such great, the same thing happened with Enigma when I got done researching Enigma and the things that the women went through in that time period. But boy, I really have come to really, truly respect the women of the West because even back here, I don't just mean the West, but women in that time, in that time period, they went through so much.
Yeah. We were just talking about that, my wife and I, and how we feel so blessed to be living now versus back then. But who knows? Maybe we lived back then. But it's we have it so easy. We just have it so easy.
We have it. We do. We have so much convenience that they never even. Well, just a bed.
Yeah.
I know, just a bed.
Yes.
A comfortable bed. I mean, look at the types of beds that we have now. Yeah. And they, you're lucky to get straw with slats or something.
I know. And we have sleep by number. Yep. It's amazing. Yeah. Like I think about I don't know, I've probably said this on this podcast before, but I think about my mom and the things that she went through in her lifetime, all the changes she saw. Like when she grew up, she would tell me, this guy who worked for her dad would come and he'd hitch the horses up to the sleigh and come and take all the kids for a sleigh ride, in the snow. And, she saw cars and microwaves and, digital cameras and just unbelievable things over, during her lifetime.
Even, I think about my lifetime and what I've seen in my lifetime, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. Really. We think about, we have, TV dinners. Do you remember, when TV dinners came into being?
They were horrible.
Yeah, they were
they were horrible. Oh my gosh, they were awful. But, they did. I mean, look at them now. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, so different. So different. It's wild. It's just really wild.
So it was just a true joy to write this book. And cool. I'm so hopeful that those who read it will enjoy it and just really like it. And hopefully read it over and over because I think it's a great story.
Well, what were your goals for the story?
To make sure that, first of all, that it was authentic. Mm-hmm. And that when I developed the characters, that they became real. That that the reader wouldn't read about a character doing something or saying something. She wouldn't do that. Yeah. She wouldn't do that. That's not a character for her. Even though it's a fictional character, they have attributes and they have certain things that you'd expect them to do. Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure that they were true to their character attributes. Mm-hmm. Let's see what else. Just that it was a great story, Anita.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't going to write that Western just to get through it. Just, okay, throw some horses in here and you got a wagon,
Yeah.
you got some guns, I wanted to make it a great story.
Oh, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you
Yeah.
did.
Thank
And how long did it take you to write this?
it usually takes me about 6 to 8 months. What happened was I started it and I turned it in, and I started it in, I believe it was November of last year, and turned it in May because I had planned to go for 3.5 months on the Appalachian Trail. So
Oh,
I was going to be
yes.
gone.
Yes.
And so I turned it in and I said, I'll work back on it when I get back in late September.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I was going to come back, and that's when I was going to start working on it again. They were going to have it done by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I got hurt and couldn't finish the trip and had to come back, I called Bold Strokes and emailed them. I said, "Look, I'm back. Can we get this done and can we get this started and move it forward?" And she said, "Yeah, 6 weeks." Okay. So I contacted my editor. Of course, they'd already talked to her, and the senior editor had already talked. And I said, "Are we going to be okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm just glad you got it all ready because we're moving." I mean, so we moved really fast on it
Wow.
and got it done. So
Wow, that's great. That really is. That's
yeah,
amazing too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was everything kind of clicked together to get it done. So it came out in October. So
I love the cover too.
thank you.
Yeah, I love it. The silhouettes are just
It
perfect.
did, yeah, they did a great job on the cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had, you have several ideas and you work with the publisher on it, but yeah, they came up with that one and I thought it was great.
Yeah, and the
I
font is
then I thought,
perfect.
and I love the color of it. It's
Yeah.
not just a blue or something. It's like a light greenish kind of color faded into kind of an orangey. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it
It's
is. Yeah.
yeah.
It really is. And the font. I love the font too.
Mhm. Yeah, it does look Old West, doesn't it?
Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
does. Yep.
Yeah, I was so pleased with it when they came. I said, "Oh wow, that really looks like." Oh, you can tell by looking at it, it looks like a Western.
Mhm. It absolutely does. Yeah. Yep.
So
So,
yeah, I feel like everything has clicked together on this story to just everything come together from start to finish to just take off. So I'm really excited about it.
oh, that's awesome. Well, I am so happy to have you back on the show and talking about Western Blue. This is like um I'm hoping our listeners will go out and grab a copy and
Please
check it
do, and
out.
I'll be at if you do that, I promise I'll be at Gold or at the Goldie Awards next year and at the conference, and I promise I'll sign it if you bring it.
Okay. All right. You heard it here first, guys. So Susie, what is next for you? Do you have something on the
Um,
horizon?
yeah, I'm thinking right now. I'm pondering. It's taken me a while. Enigma was a great story to write. Western Blue, of course, was a great story to write, but I feel a little drained, and it's just like I took everything. Everything was in me to write those two stories, one right after another.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about what I want to write.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I like I seem to like evidently romantic blend.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's some action adventure, of course. So I'm sure that will be. I don't want to change in that area. So that's probably. I know it'll probably be romantic blend with some action adventure, but I'm not. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about something, but uh, I'm not sure
Is
yet.
it going to be another period piece?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Um, I think what's going to happen I think it might be like we start off in this time period and go back in time as she thinks about what happened
Oh,
and
okay.
revealing what happened, and then we catch up to her in a regular time,
Back
and
to the
then
future-ish.
well, yeah, kind of like that. It's like we start off in regular time right now, present, and she goes back to remember what's happening and relive what's happening, and then we catch up with her, and then we take the story to the end.
Okay. That sounds great. Wow.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about it, but I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen. So
Sure.
I don't want to disappoint somebody if I say I'm going to write something and end up not writing it. So
Yep, I understand. And you know, you got to keep those things, keep your cards close to your chest, right?
right,
Yep.
except yes, for this particular time, that's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come out with next.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Susie, that's about all the time we have for today. But we're stoked to see Western Blue. And can you tell our listeners where they can find Western Blue?
You can find it at Bold Strokes Books, or you can find it anywhere. So just wherever you want, your little heart wants to go to find it, it should be there. So,
Awesome.
yep.
Okay. All right. And it's Western Blue by Suzie Clarke. And it is a new release through Bold Strokes Books. So check it out, people. I think you're going to like it. And Susie, do you have any parting words for our listeners today?
Just happy holidays to everybody. I can't believe it's coming up already.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Everybody,
is.
holiday and a great winter, and we'll see you in the spring.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show, Susie. It is always great to talk to you. My
Thanks.
Ohio comrade. So that's all the time we have for today. And I'm Anita Kelly. And thanks for joining. Let's talk about books, baby. But until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.